Welcome to the First Mentor podcast. Here, you will hear us talk about a variety of topics for the entire family that will hopefully spark a discussion, create a new curiosity, or simply teach you something new. The goal is to inspire you to learn life skills and soft skills not taught in school and prepare you to live an extraordinary life. Come on and spend some time with us on your commute to school or anytime you're free.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 19 of the First Mentor podcast. And this is your host and mentor, Vanessa Yang. I am really excited to have you with us today because we'll be talking about after-school activities with a focus on dual language immersion programs. And for this, I have invited Tien-Hsin Lin to join me today. She is an incredible volunteer for our school district. And as usual, please remember to help us spread the word and don't forget to subscribe or add us to your favorite list if you haven't done so already. And let's get started right away. Welcome to the First Mentor podcast, Tien-Hsin. And for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better, can you please share with us more about your background?
Hi, my name is Tien-Hsin Lin. I was born in Philadelphia and raised in New York State. I learned all of my Chinese in the United States in Saturday school. As a product of K through 12 public school in New York State. And later on, I went to college at Harvard and developed my Chinese skills a little bit more there, but actually I was a chemistry and physics major.
Wow.
And then later went to med school at Washington University at St. Louis, where I met my husband. We did residency back in Boston, where we started our family, and I worked as a primary care physician for several years there. After we moved to California, though, our family expanded, and I gave up my career. So I'm a stay-at-home mom now with 4 kids, 2 in high school and 2 in elementary school.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when I first heard about you at school, your name just keeps popping up over and over. Every event we had, every activity we had, I was like, who is this person? Who's this Tien-Hsin? But then as I got to know you better, it's just amazing everything you've done for school. And actually, I wanted to start with thanking you one more time for everything you've done for my kids, for all the other kids, because I think without you, they'd be lacking the opportunities that they didn't have otherwise. So I really appreciate everything you do. You're like almost a part-time teacher there because you're pretty much on campus, I'm sure every week, at least probably several times a week. So it's been amazing. So really, really appreciate you.
Well, it really is my pleasure. And I love seeing them really learn something new or something click in their minds or them really coming to appreciate something that they didn't appreciate before. I mean, it's really the most rewarding thing you can see.
Yeah. I really appreciate you also to come on my podcast. And I really wanted to spend this time talking a little bit about after school activities, volunteering, because I know you've done so much and all these different events, because I feel like without you and some of the other parents, I wouldn't have even found out about all these other things that you could do. I don't know if this is a standard thing, because I didn't go to school in the United States that, like, for example, math field day, science Olympiads. I don't know if that's standard across the country or if it's just in certain states. But I just wanted to talk through some of the activities that you and other parents help organize, right? So as far as I remember, because our children are going to the Mandarin Immersion program in our school district, you've helped with the Chinese poetry competition, right? You help prepare that, bring on the judges, sign them up, give them the material, all the kits for them to study and practice in advance before they compete at the school and then against other school. And I remember also, I believe you helped with the Chinese lion dance for Chinese New Year. I mentioned math field day, science Olympiad, and now with Mandarin reading, you just do so much, like on and on. But I wanted to go maybe first to the more generic, like math field day. Is this something that kids do just within our school district or California area? Or is this something that you experienced yourself as a kid?
Well, I had all my schooling in the United States, but I don't have experience with many different schools. I pretty much had all my schooling in one school district in New York. But from what I know from, speaking to other people, college friends, other parents, it seems like across the United States, there's a very different experience.
I see.
State to state, district to district, community to community. Some communities have more resources and some have less. But having a math team at school is not unusual, but it's not something that every kid has an opportunity to have.
I see.
Math Field Day is something that is organized in Los Angeles, and then all the school districts in the area can participate. Each district actually can participate in the LA County competition, but what they do at their district level is different from district to district.
I see.
That's what I found out from coaching it for, the past 6 or 7 years. But I did have a math team back when I was in starting 6th grade through probably 10th or 11th grade. I was involved in the math team at my school, and it was something that I really enjoyed. I think I am kind of a math person. I like toying around with numbers in my mind sometimes, and I enjoy teaching it. And so our school district is, one of the ones that organizes their own tournament before the county tournament. And not every district does that. So that is an opportunity that is really valuable for the kids in our district. But not every school has coaches that are regularly there. Like some schools will have teachers that are very interested and they just coach year after year. But some schools rely on outside volunteers to coach because they don't have that resource at their school. And so at our school, there was a need.
Yes.
At one point, because it's something that I am interested in myself. I like math and I like math teams. I decided to help out. I stepped in to help coach and I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it immensely. I've enjoyed expanding the materials and resources that we can use to coach the kids. I've enjoyed taking them to the competition. When we do well, it's super exciting. Even when we don't do well, we can be very satisfied with the hard work we put in before and everything that we learned.
Absolutely. And I think it's great just to learn a little bit outside, like how to apply the math that they've learned. Otherwise, it's so abstract. It's kind of just homework and a drag and just a chore. But for them to say, I can apply what I've learned somewhere else and feeling very confident, I think that really helps them to grow up.
I think also being as a part of a team is something that's different too.
Yeah.
Even though they do have some opportunities to work as groups in the classroom setting, it's different when you're on a team and everybody affects the whole team and that other people are counting on you.
Yes. No, I love that too. And the team experience they've had also through Science Olympiad, right? It's just instead of math, now they meet after school with their coaches who are parent volunteers at our school to go through different science experiments, work with each other solving problems, and then apply that at a competition level, which I think is amazing as well.
Yeah, I love Science Olympiad too. It's very different from Math Field Day. I would say Math Field Day is you're working as a team, working to learn some skills to be able to apply and then compete with other kids. But Science Olympiad is a much bigger event and allows for a lot more creativity. So that's really exciting too, because there are, at any given tournament, there are 20 events. Some of them are knowledge events, just like, learning all you can about mammals, for example, or all you can about rocks. But there are other ones that are build events where they have to build a vehicle or they have to build a device that has to accomplish a task.
Yes.
So this really helps them to build their teamwork skills, their creativity, and experimentation because, invariably the first one doesn't work.
Yes, absolutely. That's how science is.
They have to go back and they have to rework it. So on another note, I really feel like it helps them develop their perseverance too.
Yeah. Very important.
You cannot give up after the first try.
No, that's great. And because we are in a dual immersion program, we also bring a lot of outside activities to help just enhance and apply the foreign language skills that they've learned, right? Also the culture. It's not just the language itself, but also a culture. So I really appreciated my kids having the chance to participate in the poetry competition, even though they hated it, they were fighting. I remember my older daughter, when she started, her first one was in second grade. And my son was preschool or something like that, but because he saw his sister practice it so many times, even he started remembering the poetry. And I thought it was the cutest thing because he barely spoke, like a little bit, but he remembered the poetry and it really rubbed off of him indirectly. It's a real challenge for them to say, hey, this is hard, but if I keep practicing it, I will master it. And also to learn how to do it in front of an audience. I think I see them so nervous, but happy that they survive and finish it.
I really enjoyed organizing the poetry competition. That is something that I kind of brought to our school. I mean, we first started participating in this competition that's Southern California wide.
Mm-hmm.
And there were only a few kids that went, maybe the first couple years that we did it. But the number of kids who wanted to participate increased from year to year to the point where we could not allow them all to go because there was a maximum number of students we were allowed to send per school to that competition. And so I really felt like, well, it's a shame that we may have to lottery the spots, or, you know, some kids simply won't get to participate because there's a cap to how many we can send. The other motivation was that competition is a closed competition, so parents can't watch their kids perform.
Yes, that was hard for me too.
And I felt like that was a little bit of a shame too, where like parents could never experience what it was like to watch their kids perform their speech or their poetry. And so that's where the idea for having a school competition came from.
I see.
If we had a school competition, as many kids as want to participate can participate. And we could have it in our multipurpose room where the parents could come and be the audience.
Yes.
The other classes, if the teachers were willing, could bring their class in to watch, you know, their classmates perform and cheer them on. And I think when classes did that, it was great. It was really great for
I love that.
Both the kids watching and the kids on stage. It was really encouraging.
Yeah.
It's kind of the first step to public speaking, right? So memorize something and then be able to recite it clearly and with poise in front of an audience.
Yeah.
And one of the really rewarding things that I've gotten out of this experience is watching some kids who maybe the first year they did it, they were so nervous they could barely
I've seen several of those.
Barely hear them. But then after doing it maybe 2 or 3 years, suddenly they walk up on stage like it's nothing and they're so poised and you're like, wow, that was such a transformation from 2 years ago.
Yes. And one thing I always remember is because what I love about our school is diverse from an ethnic background, right? So there's so many kids from all sorts of culture coming in and learning Mandarin, right? It's not always just the Chinese parents who put their kids there, but all sorts of parents. And for me, that was always the most impressive part, is for somebody who has no family background or support in the Mandarin language to go up there and recite their poem or even their speech. That was the most impressive part of all.
Yeah, that was another part of our poetry competition organization that I've been pretty proud of, is to recruit Mandarin speaking volunteers to help as many non-native speaker families, you know, and their students with their preparation as possible, you know, as a free service, because not everyone can afford a tutor. Not everyone has a grandparent or a friend or somebody who can help out. And we do have a limited number of Mandarin speaking parents who have the time to volunteer, but, you know, I was able to search them out and
you hunt them down and you found them. Yes. No, I love those. And also the culture piece, when we have, you know, we celebrate Chinese New Year. I remember there's always been a lion dance and the kids all dressed up in their outfits and their costumes. I thought that was always a very great event each year.
Yeah, that inspiration came from my Chinese school days, actually.
Oh.
The Chinese school that I attended when I was a kid and then through, you know, graduating after 12 years.
Wow.
Was organized by parents. It was like a group of parents that founded the school.
Okay.
The founding parents were probably 5 or 6 years older than my parents. So my class was definitely not the inaugural class, but it was still young enough that pretty much all the parents would come in and helped the school grow. And so I remember, we had Kung Fu class taught by, a parent who,
Oh,
studied it himself. We had choir that was taught by my mom. We had Chinese dance. We had Chinese calligraphy,
wow.
Chinese painting. We had Wei Qi or Go class and different arts and crafts classes that were taught by different parent volunteers, in addition to our language classes.
Wow, you learned a lot. That was full immersion for you.
I mean, it was only 3 hours on a Saturday morning, but it was very well-rounded. It wasn't just language class, right? It
Yes,
kind of
yes.
brought in the whole culture and things that we can enjoy at the same time. And I really felt like that was really important to my being able to persevere in learning Chinese, my eventually enjoying it. No kid really enjoys going to Saturday Chinese
No.
school. When you're older, eventually, we did enjoy some of the activities that we were doing there.
Uh-huh.
And I felt like bringing that in to our Mandarin immersion program was extremely important if we wanted our kids to actually be inspired to learn,
Yes.
to enjoy
Yes.
their learning. The first time I think we had a lion dance back in my Chinese school, they were homemade lions.
Oh,
And the heads were trash can lids that were elaborately decorated
so creative.
and with, some kind of cloth drape in the back for the body.
Uh-huh.
So at our school, we did that too. Our first dragon and lion dance were homemade lions and a homemade dragon. The dragon was a paper mache head.
Wow. I
And
didn't
the
know that.
lion heads were trash can lids that we elaborately decorated and attached the cloth cape in the back for the body.
Wow.
We bought some pants, put little feather fur on it to make it look like the dragon dance pants.
Yeah.
And trained the kids ourselves, even though we're all amateurs or we're all, actually not even very experienced in lion dance. Watch some YouTube videos and
Just go for it.
yeah, just go for it.
Wow. I'm so impressed. I actually didn't know we made them ourselves. I don't know which version I saw, but the ones I saw, it looked pretty good to me. So we have very creative,
Yeah.
capable
Well, that
parents.
was our very first. Your older daughter would have been around for the first set. And
Oh.
then a few years ago, because our first dragon, paper mache, it was starting to break down. Another parent made another one out of foam. So now we do have 2 dragons. One's new
Yes.
and one's kind of breaking down. And then we made 2 more lions so that we could have a bigger lion dance troupe. So
That is
initially we only had
amazing.
2 lions. And now we have 4 lions. And even with the 2 lions, we didn't restrict ourselves to only 4 kids participating. So we always try to allow as many kids to participate as wanted to participate.
Yes. And I love that you kind of fuse East and West in the performance, because it was always a little surprise. I had to remind myself each year. I'm like, oh, there is a not Chinese dance performance in there. So the kids do, like, I don't know if it's like hip hop style or what have you. So that's always very cute.
Yeah, that was fun. So I had fun writing some parodies of popular music. And the first time we ever did it was for when we had our sister school visit. Our sister school in Beijing came to visit us. Our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders, I think, at the time, were performing a song together. And we decided to make it a parody of, a very popular song at the time, which was Gangnam Style.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah. Ended up rewriting Chinese lyrics to it, but instead of whatever the original Korean lyrics were meant to mean, it was all about learning Chinese at school.
So creative.
Got a lot of fun learning that song with the new lyrics, but still learning some of the Gangnam Style dance moves to go with it.
Yeah, that is amazing. I love how having fun with it too, right? It's not just preparing things for the kids, but along the way you're having some fun too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know now that we've been in the pandemic and everybody's home, obviously, it's really hard to find something for the kids to do. I'm sure your kids and other parents and their children that you've probably talked to, we all going through the same problem of being stuck at home and having the kids participate and do something. And obviously Zoom or virtual is our only options. I don't know if that's why you created the Mandarin reading opportunity for the older kids to read to the younger kids.
Yeah, reading has been something that's been really important to me ever since my kids joined the Mandarin program. Because I really felt like if the kids don't actually learn how to read, they probably won't really get a full grasp of the language. It'd be really, really difficult. Ever since my kids started at the Mandarin Immersion program, I always was trying to think of different ways to enhance the reading at the school.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with a Mandarin club the very first year we were there. At the time, the oldest class was third graders, and they would stay after school once a week, and we would do some kind of reading activity,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was like Mad Libs that I translate into Chinese, or, reading riddles or tongue twisters. I mean, there was a lot of things that we did with them to try to enhance their reading. I also was the one who added the Mandarin part of our book fair to our school
Oh,
book
thank
fair.
you.
Because before that, there was never a Mandarin part to the book fair. So I had a contact that was an online book vendor for Chinese books, and she was willing to help us, bring books into our book fair, when our original book fair vendor really didn't have much in terms of Mandarin books, or
Right.
not any at the time. Although I think nowadays there is more and more demand. So these
Yeah, it's growing. The bilingual programs are definitely growing.
Yeah. So I've always tried to find different ways to enhance reading opportunities. There are a few other parents and myself who would go in and help the teachers with reading groups in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
on a once-a-week basis or whatnot. So after, the stay-at-home order happened in March and the schools closed to on-campus teaching, everything had to go online. I sort of felt like, it's not my nature to just like allow restrictions
Uh-huh.
to limit what we can accomplish.
Yes, I
So
love that.
I started to, try to think of ways that we could still do the things we were doing before,
Yes.
but just modify them so that we could do them online. Math field day was one of the things that got cut short. So we
Yes.
started doing math club online. I used to host a book club at my house.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we couldn't do that anymore either. And so we moved that online. So I gradually started moving things online to a Zoom platform. And, as I got more and more comfortable with it, I was thinking, well, how can we provide this to more kids?
Yes.
And so over the summer, we did a pilot of what we just did.
Oh,
So over the summer, pretty much it was like my own kids as the group leaders, plus a few others, close family friends that I knew of who might be interested.
Mm-hmm.
And then I relied on a few room parents that I was close to recruit some participants. And we did a mini version. I think there were maybe 6 groups over the summer. It worked out pretty well and the kids enjoyed it. That's when we thought, well, because there were some other parents involved in helping me organize this. They were like, I pretty much asked them, I was like, would you guys be up for maybe doing this bigger for the school? We have everybody now. We can use the room parents to help recruit more leaders than I had access to over the summer, and then also recruit more participants.
Yes.
The other thing also was giving the kids an opportunity to volunteer for something that helps their community. And
it's so important. Yes.
And so, yeah, we were able to recruit 5th through 10th graders who are interested in helping.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it for free. So it's between 6 and 8 weeks.
Oh, I see.
Each group leader put in at least 10 hours of work during that time.
Yeah, I bet.
That really helped the younger kids. Yeah, we ended up having about 150 kids participate.
Wow, that is amazing. I know that I think during this time we all have to pivot to something different. And like you said earlier, not to just let this pandemic hold us back, because we just can't stop for a year or how much longer this is going to last, right? So that's been amazing. But you mentioned volunteering earlier. So I wanted to touch upon that topic a little bit, because you volunteer and so many parents volunteer, which is amazing. And I remember, by the way, I don't know if I had ever had the chance to congratulate you in 2018, for winning the Volunteer of the Year award. for our school district. I thought that was like, oh my God, I know her, and she completely deserves it. But obviously volunteering is very deep in your heart, and you've been doing so much, and I can sense that you just really enjoy it because you want to help out. And raising 4 children, right? I have the feeling you probably want to instill that value in them as well. And I wanted to learn from you because that's something I have in mind. My kids need to do a little bit more. But what have you done with your children? How have you gotten them involved to volunteer and give back to the community?
I think it starts with maybe giving them an attitude of wanting to help out. And I think, when I started, it wasn't so formal. When I was a kid, it wasn't like my parents took me out to like help out at an organized volunteering program all the time. But they did have this expectation that, when someone needs help, whether it's family member or friend or whatever, you should just go help. It's just an expectation. You should just go help. Other things shouldn't get in the way of that. For me, I would say just started out really simply, when my parents had Bible study and they needed someone to babysit the other kids so that the parents could have their Bible study, then, that's what I would be doing. And I wasn't doing it as a paid babysitter. It was just doing it to help out. One of the most inspiring experiences I ever had was in high school when I had the opportunity to volunteer as a Special Olympics coach.
Oh, you did that too.
For kids who were extremely limited. It's not like the Special Olympics you watch on TV where a lot of those athletes can actually still do a lot.
Okay.
Right? This was basically a special ed program in the district that I went to school in.
Oh.
After school once a week, we would go and work with these children who, some of them were nonverbal, some of them could not walk, some of them could, some had problems with self-control.
Okay.
Each child will be paired one-on-one with another child. The child that I worked with, she had cerebral palsy and she was nonverbal.
Okay.
And she was most of the time in a wheelchair, but they were working with her on walking. That was what I helped her with. Like when we went for our sessions, is I would help her practice walking. Over many, many weeks. Yeah, she was finally able to walk across the room assisted. But that was a big step for her.
That's amazing. Yes, absolutely.
She was able to walk across the room. And I had to learn so much working with her. I mean, I didn't know what to do. And she couldn't tell me her needs. She could make some sounds, but she couldn't, tell me in a very verbal way what her needs were. So I had to kind of learn her body language and learn when she had to go to the bathroom. I had to learn how to figure that out and how to help her. And so, yeah, I would say it was a very influential experience for me because you go in there and you don't know what to do, but if you don't give up, you learn so much. And then,
I agree.
For me, I was the coach and she was my student. It's just able to share in her success.
Yes. And you probably learned a lot from her too.
Oh, I mean, I learned so much. I feel like I probably gained more out of it than she did.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think one of the things with volunteering, I appreciate the most or I enjoy the most is mentoring. As a mentor, you give, but I got a lot out of it too each time I mentor somebody because I don't know everything and seeing it from different perspectives and how people grow and learn and their struggles or their strengths taught me a lot too.
But for my own kids, I mean, I guess I started out with the same thing as my parents did, which is just the expectation that you should be happy to help whenever it comes up. Even if you have other things going on, we try to work around it so that we can help out. But I also know that when I was growing up, I had some opportunities that were presented to me that I took advantage of, like that opportunity to coach the Special Olympics student. And so I think the same for my kids, like they need to have some opportunities presented to them, or at least they need to be challenged to think of an opportunity if I expect them to create one for themselves. And so over the summers, I usually will talk to my older kids about what they're going to do. What are you going to do this summer besides the things that you want to do for yourself? You want to do your sports camp, you want to do your music camp, you want to do summer school. Those things are all for yourself. But what else do you want to do? We've done a few things and I think, they need that guidance. I don't think we should expect our kids, at least not most kids, to be able to come up with their own activities on
Yeah,
their own.
I
So
agree.
I think they need some guidance. My older kids have done some like science and Mandarin camp one year where, we recruited some other kids to be the quote unquote campers. And my kids would look up the experiments they want to do with them and translate the vocabulary into Mandarin and
Wow.
figure out how they're going to present it. One year we did kind of like a science/art camp, which was also conducted in Mandarin, but like basically every science experiment was paired with an art project. And so, yeah, I feel like they gain a lot out of preparing for these things, but I'm glad, or at least I'm trying to instill in them this idea of just doing it for the community or doing it for other people. Yeah, with COVID, actually, we still did it this summer. I asked my oldest son, I was like, so what are you going to do? And in the end, he came up with, because he wants to become a computer science major when he goes to college. So he came up with, okay, let's do a Zoom coding camp.
Oh, love it.
So he did that, 2 sessions of a 3-day coding camp towards the end of the summer.
That is amazing. And I think what you said is for them to learn the interest in helping others, but at the same time, they gain so much more. What I'm hearing is project management, right? How to plan this, and then also at the same time explaining, because when you teach, you actually learn it yourself and re-emphasize it so it really sticks with you.
Yeah.
And also working with people, communication skills, making sure there's no misunderstanding. And then on top of it, in Mandarin, so they just gain so much out of it. I kind of started talking to my kids too. I'm like, what can you do? I need to get them away from the devices.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we still are doing things on screens because of the current situation.
I know, unfortunately, but it's just to get away from the mind-numbing activities, which is very passive that they've been doing, right? So at least do something active to grow themselves, help others. And that's why I really appreciated the reading program, because I just overheard them. And for them to work with younger kids, for them to learning how to manage them and also practice how to host it in another language that they normally don't speak has been extremely helpful. And they became really proud. In the beginning, they were a bit scared, but coming out, I was like, I can handle this, and to prepare for, something that's out of their comfort zone, so to speak.
Yeah, I love the fact that kids have gained confidence from this activity in being a group leader. And I love to see the responsibility that the kids have shown. To be honest, I was very nervous when I started this project because I was like, it's going to be over Zoom. There's no way for me to monitor whether they're actually prepping for their sessions or not.
That's true.
Despite the fact that I might send multiple emails, and I did Zoom orientation where I really tried to instill in them the importance of being prepared for their sessions. And we did have the prep session half an hour before each meeting. I still felt like, those 6 days in between, I have no idea if they're actually preparing. But I have to say, I was very impressed. I mean, the vast majority of leaders really showed themselves to be very, very responsible. Some of them might have even surprised themselves.
I think so.
They ended up enjoying it and feeling rewarded by the activity.
It was amazing. The other thing I wanted to ask you is also, as I'm leveraging this podcast really to teach teens and young adults and kids also life skills, things that are important, values that they need to have, right? Just wanted to ask from your perspective, because you have kids at different age groups, what kind of skills should they develop to give them kind of a head start in life? What's important to make them successful? And what do you do with after school activities or volunteering or what have you to make your kids gain those skills?
At the very first, it's mainly just, like I said before, being available to help out whenever possible and having the attitude that I should help. Other things are like just in terms of being responsible for their own work or their own responsibilities. So even from kindergarten, right? If they have any schoolwork that they're supposed to do, sure, we're around to assist, but they're expected to do it. And even, we never skip homework or other school responsibilities just because someone thinks that it's not worthwhile.
Yes.
It's not so much that I think every single worksheet is worthwhile.
I agree with you, but yeah.
But I feel like if I let them skip worksheets that I think are not worthwhile, then it teaches them that they don't have to fulfill all their responsibilities.
Agree.
I had my kids be responsible for whatever assignments they had, whether it was worthwhile or not, just to teach them the idea that if this is your responsibility, you need to follow through with it.
Yeah, that's a good value to have, to know your responsibility and follow through. I love that.
Being honest is another thing that we all want our kids to learn. We may be a little too strict on that. I don't know, but it is something that both my husband and I feel very strongly about. Yeah.
I agree with you. Honesty is important because kids nowadays, they're so smart. They try to get away with things. But as their mom, you just can tell when they have this little twinkle in their eye or that smirky smile. You're like, the answer that you're telling me is not the right one. I just know, right? You as a mom probably know that right away too. They just can't get away with things. And I let them know you can't get away because I just know.
Yeah. And I think I also kind of share my opinions about things with my kids, maybe a little bit more openly, just in the same line of honesty. I don't need them to think that everything is rosy and that everyone gets along with everyone else. At the same time, even if there's people that I have difficulty with, it doesn't mean that I can't work with them. Actually, I pride myself in the fact that I can work with people that I don't particularly like. But that's I feel like that's another life skill that you need as you get older, especially as you enter the workplace. You'll always end up with some people that can't get along with, or you simply don't like them, but you still have to work with them. So
I agree I had my fair share of good and bad people that I worked with, and you can't avoid them, right? Sometimes they're your customer, sometimes they're your boss. So you just have to work with different styles, so to speak, right? Really go with the flow and adapting to their style. And you don't have to spend time and hang out with them, but you need to at least be professional enough.
And I think you need to be able to accomplish your work to a level of your own satisfaction, not necessarily completely without regard to other people, but at least have your own satisfaction from having done your work well.
Yes. No, I love that. Because I think kids are so stressed out. There's school, there's after school activities. I feel like there's so much expected of them. And you mentioned, your kids are getting ready for college. I was just talking to a friend of mine. Just listening to her gets me really stressed out. I was like, oh my God, I have to do this, for them just to have a chance to be accepted by colleges. I'm like, there's so many expectations out there.
With any activity, I mean, I think there's not necessarily one activity that would hone all of these skills better than other ones, but I think the attitude towards the activity is really important. The parents' attitude towards the activity is really important. Whether the parents really drive home the idea that you should be responsible for your part in whatever activity you're doing. You should be available to help out your group mates, share in successes and failures alike together.
I love that. Yes.
I think any after-school activity can instill that. And I think the parents' attitude towards the activity probably plays a really large role on whether the kids learn these things or not. Yes. Obviously, the coaches and teachers matter too. But I think what I've observed over the years is parents' influence is actually very much larger.
Because they watch you. What's the saying? They do as you do, not as you say, right? So they just copy what you do, even though you say, hey, you're supposed to do that. But if you do the opposite, the kids pick up on that and do the opposite along with you, and you get mad at them or you're disappointed. But then you realize one day, wait a minute, I'm saying A, but I do B, and they follow me in B. I have to reassess myself as a parent, what I'm doing.
Exactly. So that's why being a parent's so hard.
It is not an easy task. Nobody told us how difficult this is. So it's definitely a challenge for life, but we grow. Along with that. Anyways, I really appreciate you sharing with me your experience and your wisdom. And I enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, right? I didn't know about your background before.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you. It was my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to any other time we can work together.
Hope this conversation with Tien-Hsin has given you some ideas and inspiration about joining or expanding your after-school activities, as well as volunteering. I think it's important that being involved at all stages of your life, it really helps you build multiple soft skills that will serve you for a very long time to come. And they include, but are not limited to, leadership, teamwork, problem solving, and many others. So I want to ask you, what type of activities will you start to improve your foreign language skills or make an impact in someone else's life? Think about it and hope you can discuss it as a family and have some fun with it. Until our next episode, have an amazing day.